All right, last video with that. Thank you so much. And joining us now on the broadcast is Prabhu Dayal. He's former senior diplomat, joining us on DDI News Hour. Sir, very warm welcome to DD India News Hour. Okay, so one thing is clear. Trump has stepped back when it comes to imposing tariffs on some European nations over Greenland row. And he also said that he'll not use force to take it. But another thing is also clear, that he wants Greenland at any cost. So with the current situation, sir, how do you see the future of NATO?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on your show. I think the future of NATO will stay intact.
Okay.
Firstly, NATO will outlive Trump. Of course, there were serious dangers to NATO because of Trump's statements regarding the use of force to acquire Greenland.
Right.
He had all through in 2025 until now, till yesterday, he had not ruled out using force. And he had consistently said that he would take even military action to acquire Greenland. And naturally, this was raising tension within NATO. Now, there were very clear indications that within the Trump administration, senior aides opposed the military option for acquiring Greenland. This is because they attach importance to NATO, and they knew that any military action, such as what Trump had claimed he would take, that military action would completely destroy NATO. And key insiders within Trump's team did not want to do anything that would cause harm to NATO. Secondly, even the people in Congress were pretty united in opposing this whole idea of using force in Greenland. So in other words, the Congress did not want that the Trump administration should do anything which would cause the end of NATO. They wanted to preserve NATO. Let me mention that a very important Republican is the Speaker of the House of Representatives, whose name is Mike Johnson. He's a very senior and important Republican. And he had consistently said that a scenario where force would be used should not be under consideration by the Trump administration, as it would not be under consideration by Congress. In other words, he ruled out that Congress would approve use of force, although he's a Republican Party member. Now, then again, there is no doubt that the European members of NATO showed that they were prepared to stand up to any sort of bullying. And that also helped to keep NATO intact, because if they had cowed down, then perhaps the future of NATO could have come undone.
Okay.
But for all these reasons and many more, I think NATO stays intact.
Okay. So, sir, I want to ask you that, do you still see a trade war happening? And if you see it happening, what are the options with the European Union against the United States?
I think, Trump made it sort of clear that he doesn't want to have a trade war. He said he would not be imposing the tariffs because, as he said towards the end of his meeting, that he has had a deal worked out with Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, and that as a result, the imposition of tariffs is not necessary. For this reason, I think Europe is breathing a sigh of relief. Even the American markets are doing so. And the threats to economic stability, which were being caused on account of Trump's original remarks, seem to have been ruled out now.
Okay, so you don't see any trade war happening. Just a while back, you were talking about United States putting their military force in Greenland, if required. But do they really require it? I mean, I have a question that we all know about the Cold War treaty that is there between the United States and Greenland. And according to that treaty, America can put as many personnel as they want inside Greenland, which currently stands at somewhere about 150. Do they really need to use the force to take Greenland, if at all?
Well, the majority of American leaders, by far, think that this whole idea of having to use force against Greenland was bizarre. In fact, as soon as Trump said that he would be using force, there were all kinds of remarks made by important analysts, and some even suggested that they thought that Trump was not mentally stable. So the point is this,
That's a big
that
statement, sir.
what Trump was saying about Greenland being important for American security is undeniable. Because if you look at the map of the world,
Yeah.
Greenland is just adjacent to America. The coast of Greenland runs alongside the coast of Canada. And so, therefore, for the security of the North American continent, it's important. But as you pointed out, the Americans should be exploring other ways. They have one base, they can have many more. And I'm sure that during the talks which were held yesterday with Mark Rutte, this aspect was discussed that America can use Greenland to strengthen its military presence, to increase its bases, and to do whatever it considers necessary to secure America and also to secure European interests. And therefore, what the message that went across from the European side is that while they have no opposition to you letting the United States use Greenland for strategic purposes, yet the issue which they are opposed to is America trying to acquire sovereignty over Greenland. But this is what Trump had been wanting. He had said, I want to buy Greenland, and if I'm not able to, then I don't rule out the use of force. So the issue of sovereignty is what was divisive, not the use of Greenland for strategic interests. And therefore, the Americans can take resort to setting up more bases. You know, the Americans have bases all over the world.
You're right.
So if Greenland is next to them, they can increase the number.
And they already have a base there. They already have a base there, Pacific.
But that is, if they feel that more bases are needed, this is what the NATO secretary
You're right.
pointed out. By all means, increase the number of bases, but give up this whole idea of using force to acquire.
You're absolutely right, and I agree with you. Because of the location of Greenland, it's very, very important, and the very fact that, you know, if United States will take over Greenland, they will be adding somewhere about 836,000 square miles of the area, which is perhaps bigger than the Louisiana Purchase, and it's perhaps bigger than Alaska as well. And also, because it has untapped reserves of critical minerals, and something which we all use in mobile phones, in electronics, in satellites, in weapons as well. And also in the Arctic regions, there are about 13% of oil reserves and 30% of undiscovered gas as well, and much of it is near Greenland. So that is why perhaps Trump really want Greenland at any cost. He also urged world leaders to allow the US to take control of Greenland from Denmark and said, you can say yes and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no and we will remember. What do you make of this statement? We will remember.
Well, if it is just another way of threatening. It is saying, hum yaad rakhenge, that kind of thing. But I don't think that after he said that he rules out the use of force, this statement, we will remember, needs to be taken that seriously. But you were absolutely right. Trump has great interest in the critical minerals and oil reserves of Greenland.
And the sea routes as well, sir.
He's a businessman.
And
Trump is a businessman.
Yeah, definitely, sir.
The profit motive always in mind.
Right. And the sea routes as well.
And in Venezuela, he has openly said that he wants the oil reserves. The oil reserves should be for America.
Yeah.
And for Greenland also, he has deep economic interests, which are linked to the reserves of not just Greenland, but also of the Arctic region. So he has made no secret of his interest in Greenland. He says he wants the resources. But then what is the way out, It doesn't mean that he has to acquire the whole of Greenland. He can work alongside Denmark. And this is, I think, what the NATO Secretary General was trying to work out with him. A deal where the Americans work to tap the resources of Greenland, but share the profits with Denmark. Denmark doesn't have the resources or the wherewithal
Right.
to tap these resources.
Yeah.
So they can work for something which is mutually beneficial. And that is where diplomacy comes in. Trump's team comprises some very good diplomats. In fact, yesterday, Marco Rubio was openly praised by Trump in his Davos speech. So they can work out some sort of an arrangement with the Danes that the natural resources of Greenland should be tapped and should be for the benefit of America as also for the benefit of Denmark, rather than have a hostile situation where the two sides resort to arms and then it doesn't work to the advantage of either. So I think what the NATO Secretary General tried to emphasize to Trump was that let's have a win-win situation where
Definitely.
their peace is not disturbed, but the arrangements work out to our mutual
You're right.
advantage.
You're right. Okay. Very quickly, sir, I want to ask you that do you also agree that the geo-economic relationship between countries will be impacted if United States take over Greenland?
Well, first of all, I don't think there is any likelihood of the American establishment itself pushing for a policy that involves taking over Greenland. So it's a hypothetical question. Neither have the Europeans shown any indication that they would be willing in any case to give up sovereignty and sovereign rights over Greenland. So the whole idea of the Americans acquiring Greenland is a non-starter. But the natural resources of Greenland, as I said, are something. These resources are important, and a policy could be adopted where things could work to mutual advantage between the United States administration and the Europeans. But for the moment, I think the bright side of things is that any escalation of the military aspect of the situation seems to be ruled out. You know, the Europeans had sent some small contingents to Greenland, and that was to show that they were standing alongside Denmark. So there was some sort of a minor escalation with Trump's statements and European resistance.
Right.
But, and this is a fundamental but, there is an important de-escalation now, and let's see what the path for the future is. I hope it builds on cooperation rather than confrontation.
Only the time will tell that, sir. Thank you so much, Bhatt, for joining in on DD India News. Thank you so much once again.